Since the beginning of our existence, the human race has called Earth its home. Our knowledge and utilization of the Earth's resources has increased generation after generation. The nature of our survival has always been based on the literal nature of the world around us. From the beginning of irrigation to the mass production of bottled water, our use of resources has gradually turned into an abuse of resources. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, landfills are the most common form of waste disposal. And for those of you who don't know, landfills are areas where we dump waste, cover it with soil, so that it can turn into reusable or usable land like for recreational sites like parks and golf courses. The scary thing is that according to justlivegreener.com, in 16 years, the number of landfills has decreased by 84%, while the amount of waste we've generated has increased by 80%. Quite simply, we're running out of places to throw our trash away. Based on this fact, you cannot argue that we have made more of a negative impact on the environment than any other species. With that being said, I also believe that we are capable of turning things around. I know that we have all grown accustomed to certain lifestyles, but today I would like to encourage you all to become more environmentally conscious and responsible. I don't expect to persuade you all to go full-on green within the next few minutes, but I do hope to get you a shade or two closer. To do this, I'm going to explain the negative impacts that plastic bags and plastic water bottles have on our environment, offer practical solutions, or practical alternatives to eliminate the use of these products, and encourage you to recycle these products if you can't see yourself reducing your consumption of them. So let's start out with plastic bags and bottles and the impact that they have on our environment. One reason that our landfills are filling up at alarming rates is because there isn't really any other way to safely dispose of plastics that don't get recycled. The main problem with plastic is that it is not biodegradable. And this means that bacteria and other microorganisms do not recognize them as food and do not break them down into useful compounds found in nature. So plastic is actually photodegradable, which means that they only break down through exposure to light. And even when plastic does break down, the particles of its remnants contaminate the water and soil. This can make the disposal of these products very harmful for the environment. Two of the most common and widely used plastic products in our society are plastic bottles and bags. So these are the products I'm going to be gearing my speech towards. So plastic bags are no doubt a part of the world we live in today. We use them when we shop for groceries, when we get takeout food, and even to lug around the yieldings of our retail therapy sessions. But sadly, according to an environmental organization called the Clean Air Council, Americans use approximately 1 billion shopping bags annually, which in turn creates 300,000 tons of landfill waste. And another environmental harm that we have grown accustomed to is bottled water. Somehow our society has found a way to commercialize water. What we can get from the tap at home, we now pay exponential amounts to get in a bottle. The problem with water bottles is that they take centuries to decompose. And according to the National Resource Defense Council, in the US, 29 billion bottles of water are purchased every year. And of these bottles, only 13% of them get recycled. This means that nearly 2 million tons of water bottles end up in our landfills every year. So as you can see, plastic products can cause big problems. So now let's talk about some very manageable solutions. The first of which is to reduce our consumption of these products. In order to cut back on your usage of plastic bags, I recommend investing in some reusable shopping bags. The reusable shopping bags are made out of fabric and are durable enough to reuse over and over again. They're very inexpensive, and most stores actually sell them right at the register. And most of the time they're only $1, but I know some stores like Urban Outfitters even offer them for free. And they're great alternatives because you could use them over and over again, and you could completely cut out your use of plastic bags that way. An easy way to cut back on plastic water bottles is by switching to reusable water bottles. Granted, reusable water bottles can also be made out of plastic. They are much thicker and durable enough to reuse over and over again. So next time you're on the go, you can just fill up a reusable bottle instead of resorting to use a plastic one. And at the end of the day, you just wash it out and it's ready to go for tomorrow. According to National Geographic, the average American drinks 30 gallons of bottled water every year. That's equivalent to 227 water bottles every year. And that means that if everyone in our class today committed to using reusable bottles instead of plastic ones, we'd save around 5,221 bottles worth of plastic every year. Now, if you cannot see yourself cutting back on your use of these plastic products, there are still steps you can take towards a greener lifestyle. According to the Clean Air Council, less than 1% of plastic bags get recycled every year, and according to National Geographic, only 13% of water bottles get recycled every year. By simply recycling, you can help improve these numbers. If your neighborhood does not have a separate waste bin for recyclable materials like plastics, then there are still ways that you can recycle your plastic bags and plastic water bottles. According to a press release by Walmart and Sam's Club, every Walmart location actually has a recycling bin for plastic bags. So next time you're at Walmart, you could just bring all of the plastic bags you've accumulated and dispose of them there. And to recycle plastic water bottles, you can bring all of your empties to a recycling center nearest you. And if you don't know where the nearest recycling center is, you could visit 1-800-recycling.com, and when you get on the site, you just type in your zip code, and it'll give you a location. Another benefit of recycling centers is receiving 5 cents for every container you recycle that's less than 24 ounces, and 10 cents for every container you recycle that's 24 ounces or larger. So today we talked about the negative impacts that plastic bags and plastic water bottles have on our environment, ways that we could reduce our use of these products, and ways that we can recycle them. Hopefully you can now see how manageable an environmentally responsible lifestyle can be. And if we all start out by taking these steps and hopefully continue to build off of them, then we'll have conservation in the bag, and hopefully that bag is reusable.
Thank you.
Bless you all the last one.
Yeah, I had another. All right, Naveen, what did you think?
DJ, I liked the structure. I think that was really strong. The attention device was a little bit unclear, but once you made your thesis statement on environmental consciousness, it was clear what you were going to talk about. You made a play on words on green and then shade or two differently. I appreciated that. Thought you outlined very nicely the problems, and there were clear bags and bottles, and then you outlined solutions, and that came at the halfway point. So that was really balanced and structure-wise. That was excellent. When you continued through the end, you gave lots of statistics. You cited them well. You began to wrap up at around, gave a nice summarization around 7 minutes, and then a nice play on words at the end with in the bag. My biggest concern is you were reading a great deal, and you didn't need to. You knew this stuff. And only on the quotes you should have read. So I think there's a lot of dependency on the notes. And once you did that, your energy dropped a bit, your eyes dropped, so it was difficult for us. You could have been stronger. I liked when you walked the transitions, you actually stood still and you delivered it. So if you get away from the notes, I think this is great potential.
Okay. I thought that the opening worked pretty well. You've got a nice visualization and a statement in your introduction. I really like the transition to the actual speech itself, and you had some statistics that you used in the introduction. That was fine. The goal is very clearly stated, and I'd agree with Naveen. There are 2 or 3 spots in the speech where you use some little clever language that makes it more interesting. It makes it seem like you are more involved in what you're talking about. You're trying to make it interesting for the audience also. And let's face it, it's fun, you know, to listen to the language that's creative there. So I think you add some nice touches there. It's structured very well at the beginning. You set up the secondary issues clearly. You define a couple of things, photodegradable versus biodegradable. I think you need a little bit stronger argument about the problems with landfills and whether or not there's enough capacity for all of the stuff. I think let's face it, everybody who says, hey, we're running out of room to put all the garbage, clearly has not driven across the desert, because there's plenty of room out there. It's a question about whether or not it's affordable or whether or not it's healthy to do those kinds of things. So it's not like there isn't room, but the question is, you know, is the places that we're doing it now, is it potentially problematic there? We're running out of space there, or maybe is it cost effective? I think the recycling issue, the notion that it's not biodegradable, is something that's important. And of course, the amount that we use each year seems to be pretty substantial. The statistic that you have that talks about how only a small percentage is actually recycled, I think that's the thing that gives you the best argument that we ought to be doing something about this. That the plastic bags are recyclable, I do need to know a little bit more about what this recycling consists of, because I always think of myself as recycling the plastic bags, but that's because I multi-purpose them. I don't know that most people would think of that as being recycling. You know, it's not taking it out of the environment, but I get 2 or 3 uses out of them before I actually am done with them and toss them in the trash. So, you know, I bring the groceries home in them, I put the garbage in them, I pick up the dog crap in them, you know, I carry stuff around back and forth to school in them, and then they go in the trash, you know. So I've used them multiple times, but that's not exactly what you're talking about here. So I think you need to kind of explain a little bit more what that consists of. I did like the fact that you found some places that you can recycle the plastic bags and I guess reduce the impact that they have on the environment. But there's a lot of stuff that talks about problems with plastic bags in the environment, and I think that that's where you needed to build up the argument a little bit more, get some emotional involvement in it, and give us a reason to care a little bit more about it. That, to me, was the one weak part of the presentation, or I should say of the speech itself. On the presentation things, I'm going to agree with Naveen on everything he said. I think that you did a nice job with your voice. I think you deliver it very effectively. I thought the nonverbals worked well, the walk-in transitions, all that kind of stuff. But the eye contact is... And you don't have bad eye contact. See, so when I give you that is kind of thing, I want to remind people that when I'm talking about some of these things, we're always looking at stuff that you can improve on. I didn't think there was a lot that you can improve on this, but there's one thing that you could do, and that is that you have a tendency to look down at the notes even when you don't need to. I think it gives you a little bit of reassurance. I know where I am. Here's the next thing, and you're not having to worry that much about it. But it's clear you don't need to the vast majority of the time. And so if you could avoid doing so, you'd be better off. Like I said, I didn't think that your eye contact with the audience was bad, but you know, I think you could probably do this speech without the cards. I think you probably know it well enough, and if you got the cards out of your hands, you'd be fine. You know, it's just a crutch that you're going to at this point. All right, thank you.